free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Deep Dive podcast. I am Roger Saracen, along with Brian Koperek. Well, Brian, they said it couldn't be done. They said a women's pro league couldn't fill NHL arenas.
Oh, really?
Well, tell that to the 17,335 fans who just packed Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle on February 27th.
That's pretty sweet.
It's time for the Sports Deep Dive podcast.
Hillary is history and buys our plays. We've got the stories from the glory days. Don't just watch the scoreboard, know the game. Be the smartest person in the frame. Sports Deep Dive, give them something more. Sports Deep Dive, give them something more.
All right, on today's Sports Deep Dive podcast, we are talking about the Professional Women's Hockey League known as the PWHL. A league that just isn't growing, it's exploding, Brian. We're seeing an 18% jump in attendance year over year. We're talking about Madison Square Garden and TD Garden selling out in hours. This isn't just a startup anymore, it's a takeover. When the New York Sirens take the ice at MSG next month, it won't just be a game, it'll be a statement that the PWHL is the hottest ticket in North American sports.
You've been a fan since the beginning.
Yes, I am. I have been a fan since the beginning, and I will tell you, I'll disclose to you that my favorite team is the Minnesota Frost. All right, but let's get back into it. Remember, well, you don't because you don't follow it as much, but I remember season 1.
Yeah.
It was PWHL Toronto versus PWHL New York. They it was clean, corporate. They didn't really have they really didn't have any names or logos. It was just the name of the city.
Okay.
And that's all it was in the
That's
jerseys. The second season, 2024 to 2025, was the official rebranding, where the original 6 teams finally got their nicknames and logos. The PWHL's original 6 are Boston, Minnesota, Montreal, Toronto, New York, and Ottawa. 3 U.S. cities and 3 Canadian cities, if you're keeping score at home. This season, we got the Toronto Scepters and the Montreal Victoire battling for the North, while the Boston Fleet anchors the East. Now, the real story, though, isn't just the standings. It's how these teams are weaving themselves into the local fabric. Take last night in Vancouver at the Pacific Coliseum. The Goldeneyes hosted their First Nations celebration unity game against the Fleet.
Okay.
Now, for my listeners outside of Canada, you might be wondering about the term First Nations. In Canada, First Nations refers to the predominant indigenous people who are neither Inuit nor Métis. We're talking about more than 630 distinct communities across the country, peoples who have been stewards of this land for thousands of years.
Right.
And so last night they are honoring them by dedicating a unity game to this celebration. The PWHL isn't just doing a theme night, they're acknowledging the specific history of the Coast Salish peoples on whose traditional territories the Goldeneyes play.
That's pretty cool.
It's about representation.
Right.
When young indigenous players see their culture honored at center ice, it changes the way they see their own future in the sport. It proves that the takeover we're seeing in women's hockey is about more than just selling tickets. It's about building a league that actually looks and feels like the communities it represents.
I agree. That's really cool.
But Vancouver isn't the only first-year team in the in the Professional Women's Hockey League this season. The league didn't wait. They jumped right into the Northwest. The Vancouver Goldeneyes are joined this year by the Seattle Torrent. The Torrent S logo, a nod to the rushing waterways of the Cascades, is already the top-selling jersey in the league. We're seeing a brand new rivalry born in the Pacific, and it's fueling a league that's finally starting to look like a permanent fixture on the sports map.
I think it's awesome. I wish Nashville would get a team. I think that would be super cool.
You mean PWHL?
Yeah.
Alrighty. All right. I'm sorry. All right. So to understand the PWHL today, you got to understand where it came from.
Right.
All right. So the league didn't start in a boardroom. It started with a boycott. And let me explain. The PWHPA. All right. So after the Canadian Women's Hockey League, the CWHL folded in 2019, over 200 of the world's best players, including Kendall Coyne, Schofield, Hillary Knight, and Sarah Nurse, formed the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association. They refused to play in the existing pro leagues because their conditions weren't professional. Think no health insurance, low pay, and playing in the community rents.
Yeah, the basic theme that we see amongst a lot of women's professional sports, and that they're just not being treated very well. And good for them.
So they sat out 4 years to force a better league into existence. On a whim, Kendall Coyne Schofield reached out to tennis legend Billie Jean King and said, "How do we do this right?"
That's a smart move.
King, who had already revolutionized women's tennis in the 70s, jumped on board as a mentor and strategist. Now, Ilana Kloss, the CEO of Billie Jean King Enterprises, was on almost every call for 4 years, helping the players set up bank accounts, craft business plans, navigate legal hurdles. She was the one who personally connected Kendall Coyne Schofield to billionaire Mark Walter to secure the first check. So, unlike previous leagues that relied on small-scale donors or nonprofit models, the PWHL is backed by billionaire capital.
Right.
Now, are you familiar with Mark Walter?
I am not.
All right. So the Mark Walter Group. The Mark Walter is the CEO of Guggenheim Partners.
Okay.
And co-owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers and Chelsea FC.
So he's got big sports league experience.
Yeah, it's more than just a business.
Yeah.
He's got, like you said, he's got that sports background.
Yeah.
And, I think the Dodgers are doing pretty well, right?
And Chelsea's nothing to
Right.
bad either. That's what I was saying. Big sports league experience.
Yeah, and they've got pretty big payrolls. Yeah,
they're trying to start something, right, to get that kind of leadership on board.
Yes. Now he didn't just provide a loan. He bought out the competing league, the PHF, to unify the sport and signed an 8-year collective bargaining agreement before the first puck even dropped.
See, again, there's that experience talking, right? If you go ahead and buy out the competing league, you bring it all together, you have a better fighting chance at making it work.
Yeah.
And he had the capital to do it. Where these players, how are they going to do that? They're not,
Right.
you know.
So guaranteed salaries, housing stipends, maternity leave. These things had never before been seen in women's hockey.
Yeah.
So Billie Jean King and Alana Krause provided the blueprint for a single entity league. In a traditional league like the NHL, each team is owned by a different billionaire who competes for players and revenue. In the PWHL, one company, the Mark Walter Group, owns all 8 teams.
Oh, so kind of like the Savannah Bananas, like that model.
Savannah Bananas is just one team, though.
No, it's not. There's
Okay.
teams in every city, and he owns them all. Not in every city, but in multiple cities.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more along the lines of like the Arena Football Leagues or the XFL when it first started and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean, this concept is very similar though. He created teams down in Dallas and several other places, several other cities, and they're all owned by the same corporation, and they're playing each other.
Right. King and Klaus knew that startup leagues often fail because one weak owner goes bankrupt, dragging the whole league down.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Under this model, there is no infighting between owners. Decisions are made for the health of the league, not just for one city.
Right.
Resources are shared. If the New York Sirens have a slow month, the success of the Minnesota Frost, for instance, helps keep the lights on for everybody.
Right.
This structure allowed the PWHL to go from concept to opening night in just 6 months because there were no individual owners to argue with.
Right. I like it.
The NHL, while the NHL doesn't own the PWHL, unlike the NBA, WNBA model, they have been consultative supporters, opening up arenas like Xcel Energy Center and Scotiabank Arena for games.
And see, I think that's awesome, right? Because they could have been either non-participatory or even antagonists in it. But instead, they chose to support and enable, and I think that's pretty sweet.
Also, Canadian Tire was one of the first major brands to put, quote, rubber to the road. You like that? You like that? Trusting the data before the league even had a name. But we do have some skeptics in the crowd, Brian.
Oh, there always is.
Many scoffed at the idea of a single owner league, calling it a monopoly. Early on, some brands and broadcasters were hesitant because previous leagues like the CWHL, the PHF, had struggled to stay afloat. They wanted to see proof of concept before buying in.
Right.
Which makes the Canadian Tire support even much sweeter because they were like, sounds good to us. We're in. Yeah. When Walter bought and shut down the PHF to start the PWHL, some fans and players felt the hostile takeover was too aggressive, though most eventually joined the United Front. All right. So this is the part of our podcast, Brian, which I really think you're going to like.
Okay.
You're going to like it. All right. So the PWHL just doesn't follow the NHL's rule book. All right. They are exciting. They are acting as a test lab for the sport. All right. Listen to some of this stuff. They have what is known as the jailbreak goal. This is the most famous PWHL rule. If a team scores a goal while shorthanded, meaning on the penalty kill,
right,
the penalty ends immediately and their player comes out of the box. It has completely changed how aggressive teams are when they are down a player.
Yeah, because I like that rule. I really do. I think that's a cool rule.
I figured you would.
And it's not like it's not hokey. Like it's just giving extra incentive to sort of play a little bit more risky when you're on the penalty kill. Like I like it. That's good.
Okay.
And it doesn't deviate from the principles of hockey very much.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. All right, cool.
All right,
What
so
else you got?
all right, they got the 3-2-1 point system. Unlike the NHL, the PWHL award 3 points for a regulation win, 2 for an overtime win, and 1 for an overtime loss. So this makes the regulation wins much more valuable and keeps teams from playing for the tie in the final minute.
Yeah, instead of the 2-1 rule that's in the NHL.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right, now here's the third one that I really like, and I think you're going to like it too.
Okay.
Instead of teams tanking, meaning losing on purpose, to get the number 1 pick, the PWHL uses the gold plan. Here's the gold plan. Once a team is mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, they start earning draft points for every win. The team that earns the most after being eliminated gets the first pick. It keeps every single game meaningful until the very end.
I like that rule too.
I like it too.
NHL should do that.
Well,
actually, I think all sports leagues should do.
Well, NBA should do it because there's been talk, about teams tanking.
Well, NFL does it too. They like it. They'll mail it in so that they can get a higher draft pick.
Yeah.
And I dare say, the NHL, the dang NHL, they're terrible. They will have fire sales of all their good players when they know that they're going to suck for the season, so that they can get a better draft pick, better draft picks the next time. So yeah.
All right. So right now, eight teams in the PWHL. They are currently scouting its next expansion cities through what they call the takeover tour.
Okay.
All right. So the takeover tour is basically playing a PWHL game in a non-PWHL city.
Okay.
So they might go to St. Louis, they might go to Washington D.C., they might go to San Jose, stuff like that. So I'm going to tell you about the takeover tour when it was at Capital One Arena, which is home of the NHL's Washington Capitals.
Right.
17,228 fans packed the arena.
That's awesome.
Montreal Victoire and the New York Sirens played. New York took the win 2-1. The Washington Capitals were heavily involved with the captain Alex Overchin participating in a jersey swap with Montreal captain Marie-Philip Poulin, who was known as Captain Canada. This game actually ended in a line brawl.
Oh.
High intensity physical game that proved these takeover tour games are just as competitive
As a
Yeah.
regular league.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got upcoming stops in Chicago at the Allstate Arena,
Okay.
Detroit at the Little Caesars Arena later this month. Rumors are swirling about where the league goes next. They're talking about Denver, Detroit, Quebec City. They're currently in the forerunners for expansion in 2027.
That's cool.
Sorry, Brian, there's no mention of Nashville.
Well, it'll have to spread, and Nashville's a really good hockey city, but some of these cities that you just named are definitely bigger. You're being honest. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean Detroit, part of the original 8, and like you got. Would you say Vancouver is another one, and Chicago? So I mean, yeah, those are big hockey cities.
Wait, are you talking about the PWHL original 6?
No, I'm talking about
The
Detroit is one of the original
NHL original 6, yeah.
and they still around. What
Right.
I mean? So it's like the cities that they're talking about expansion to next are bigger hockey cities
Right.
than Nashville. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I
yeah.
can see us being further down the line
Okay.
because they're trying to build something. So you're going to go to the bigger markets.
Right. Do you remember what we had last month?
The Olympics.
We did. We had the Olympics. And do you remember how USA hockey did?
They were freaking awesome. I watched every game
Both men and women won the gold,
Yes.
as you know.
And we beat
Canada. 61 PWHL players left their clubs to represent their countries.
That's pretty cool.
I think there were like 6 Minnesota Frost in the Olympics. Well, I keep tabs. Like I said, they're one of my faves. Megan Keller, the Boston Fleet, scored the golden goal in overtime to secure the win for Team USA. Ariel Frankel, also of the Fleet, put up what might be the most dominating goaltending performance in Olympic history with a .980 save percentage. But here's the sports deep dive question for you.
Okay.
How do you come back from a gold medal win and get back into the playoff race?
I don't know. It's rough.
Stars like Hillary Knight and Hannah Bilka in Seattle. The goal is to bring that Milan magic back to a Torrent team that is fighting for its playoff life. Meanwhile, legends like Marie Pilapoul, Captain Canada, are returning to the Montreal team with a silver medal and a chip on their shoulder. The rivalry between these teammates is real. You'll see them hugging on the Olympic podium on a Sunday, and then by Thursday, they're slashing each other in the corners of a PWHL rink because they know exactly how to get it under each other's skin.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to talk about my team.
Oh, okay.
The Minnesota Frost. Now, if you look at the regular season standings from 2024 and 2025, you see them sitting at the 4th seed, barely scraping into the playoffs.
Okay.
But once the playoffs start, well, something changes. Led by Kendall Coyne Schofield, the Frost have hoisted the 35-pound Walter Cup twice in a row.
Oh, so now I know why you're bandwagon Frost fan.
I'm not a bandwagon.
Now it's all becoming clear, Roger.
Now have I pointed out that this is season 3 of the PWHL? So
And they've won 2.
and they've won.
And so that's your favorite team?
Well, I'm just saying. I've been with them since day one. Come on. Now, so as we head into the 2026 playoffs, the question isn't whether Minnesota is the best team. It's whether anyone can stop them when the clock starts ticking down.
We shall see. I think I'm going to have to find a rival team so that we have something to go against.
Well, the PWHL is available on YouTube. That's their TV partner.
Okay.
And so they've got all the games listed. So you could, while I'm watching the Frost, you could be watching, maybe if Detroit gets a team, you could watch them next year.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, this concludes our episode.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.